welcome to BGV Talks. I am Shelly Bell, your host, and today we're talking to Gary V, none other than Gary V. Like, everybody knows you. It's so good to see you, man. I haven't seen you since January. So how has everything been going on your end?
2020 came in hot. It's when we saw each other at CES, first of all, it's so great to be here. Second of all, I want to say it publicly what I said when I jumped on. The yellow looks insane. You look great. Third of all, thanks for the patience, because we were trying to get this together, and then COVID hit, and then Black Lives Matter and all that. It's just been crazy. But I'm grateful. Obviously a lot of things are challenging on the business front, but when you put that into the context of health and all the social injustice, it's an intense time, and I'm grateful for what I have and what's going on. And so I'm good. And I'm navigating, like a lot of people, really trying to think about how to do everything best for your family, for yourself, for the greater good of humanity, for your business, for your employees. It's been a year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so, you speak a lot and you're such a great energy. I love it. I love watching you, listening to you. You have a lot of our audience that does as well. You could have chosen any path. Like, you could have, got in, made your money, and decided to be an influencer and just go the speaker route. Why start an agency?
I like being a businessman, like I never aspired to have people know who I was, right? I was 31 years old the first time I made a video about wine. I was 34 the first time I made a video about business. Business and wine people weren't famous. I didn't go to Hollywood when I was a kid. I never dreamed of being an actor or anything of that nature. So it's not in me to be Gary V. Meaning I'm thrilled. Look, you have the benefit of what most people don't, which is you saw me at that cocktail hour at CES. I hope you saw what I know is my truth, which is I genuinely like people. And so the Gary V thing allows me to know a lot of people, which is cool. Like I love that part. I don't love the part that people put me on a pedestal because I'm just one dude. I don't like the part of like sometimes being bothered if I'm with my kids. Because I don't get a lot of time with them. I don't like the fact that you always know that like everybody's watching everything. There's no downtime. Yeah. But those are all so secondary compared to the admiration and the kindness that comes with knowing people. And so, for me, I've only known how to do business. I enjoy the book writing. I enjoy the public speaking. I'm not gonna lie. There's definitely times when VaynerMedia or other parts of my business life, empathy, the K-Swiss collaboration, Resi, when these things are so stressful that I say to myself, man, like literally, you talk to yourself in the shower, like, man, stop trying to prove something, like just fucking fuck all this bullshit, sell sports cards and speak and you'll moonwalk to a privileged financial life and probably a far less anxiety life. But the reality is everything's got its costs. And deeper than that, I just love running businesses. I like being an operator. I'm proud of the 1,000-person organization, the sheer size and scope of VaynerMedia. It's a real accomplishment. I'm proud of it.
It is, for sure. So on a day-to-day, how do you keep that energy up? Do you have a major workout routine? Do you like eat certain kinds of bars? Like what, or do you sleep a lot? Like that's another thing.
You know what's funny? I do sleep a lot more than people think. I sleep 6, 7, 8. I'm not less than 6. I'm finished if I'm less than 6. I really do think it's my mental stability, to be honest. We talk a lot about white privilege. We're starting to see people talk about athletic privilege. When you're born 7 foot, that's a privilege.
That's right.
But I actually think the ultimate privilege is actually mental stability, like a calmness, a lack of anxiety. DNA wise, and growing up with not a whole lot and growing up with very incredible parents, especially my mom, really created simplicity. I as long as I'm healthy and as long as the people I love are healthy, it's very easy for me to be good. And so I really think the reason I have so much energy is based on gratitude. I'm grateful.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's right. Today, I wasn't feeling so good last night. So I said, let me get outside. Let me just get some vitamin D right quick. Let me just take a walk. I think like the way to combat not feeling so good to me is just getting your body moving, whether you get up and dance and like just grounding. Sounds like just grounding yourself. So when you think about on your journey, turning your dad's wine store into the first like e-commerce platform, e-commerce space for a wine store. Well, especially right now, I think it could be super helpful for people who are going from like your brick and mortar to trying to figure out now what it looks like to social distance at 6 feet apart in a retail store. You know, like it's mind blowing that, you know, the way that people have to think about pivoting. So, what do you think the impact of that was? Like, what were your thought process along that journey of like figuring out that platform piece?
I live watching, you know, the reason I was right about sports cards going up, the reason I was right about Gunna and the baby, and Meg the Stallion, the reason I was right about e-commerce back then, the reason I was right about TikTok, it's not because I'm so brilliant. It's not because I'm a genius, or, you know, when people throw nice accolades, I'm flattered, but it's silly. What I do is I listen, which is weird because I talk a lot. I interrupt people when I talk. So I'm kind of hiding my listening part, but it's kind of like I'm listening every minute that you don't see me. And so in 1996, it was obvious to me that the internet was going to be big. It was not super complicated. I was like, this internet thing is not a fad. This is going to be like the way people do it. And so, oh shit, I need to build a store on it. Like that's who I was. I was a merchant. I was a selling kid. And so that's what we did. It worked because I'm good at it. It wasn't just having the idea. I had to execute it. And it really changed the course of my family's life in a lot of ways financially. And it allowed me to achieve what I wanted, which was to kind of give back to my family. You know, I left that business in my mid-30s with no ownership of the business, no exit, no nothing. You know, in a family business, you don't really pay yourself a lot of money. So I was only able to save so little. And that was great. That was fine. That was kind of like my journey and something I'm proud of. And I do it to this day. I'm watching every minute. I mean, it's even little things like, for example, can't cancel culture. I'm very worried that if we're going to cancel everybody for every little thing, then we can't cancel people for real things. You know, I'm watching that, right? Like when everyone jumps on Virgil or Karen Civil, the last people should be jump, you know, you kind of start looking at it and like, not that nobody's perfect, but like, if we're going to really go there, like, then I'm worried that when people are actually doing real bad stuff, that if it feels the same, you know, so I'm watching that. I'm like, is this, you know, the masses jumping on people. I understand it, but like, is that going to work out? And I think like that. I think, what are the chess moves? I think about Kanye and Gap just announced something 5 minutes ago, you know, that 10-year deal. What does that mean? You know, I kind of saw, you know, it's why I did the K-Swiss thing, and I'm no fucking Kanye, but like we did it in our little way. Now I see Kanye doing, I think you're gonna see more of that. You know, there's just so much interesting shit going on out there. And I'm always listening. And I think that puts me in an opportunity of, and then I do it, right? I'm listening to teenagers. So I see Musical.ly's popping, so I'm on it, which makes me then realize that TikTok's going to be big. So I'm on it early. Then I'm on it for a while. Then I start talking about it way early by most people's standards. And then it hits, and then people think I'm a genius, but it already hit. It's just that I'd been there early.
Right.
I equate it to sports and music. Like the best high school football player right now is not really known, but if you're in the football business, you know who it is. And so if you're out there saying this kid's gonna be a star, and then 5-7 years later he's in the NFL, he's a star, of course you were in it. It's music. Like if you really follow music like that, like you knew DaBaby was a star, you know, but maybe 2 years before he's on, SNL. And so it's what I've always done. It's what I did with Twitter and Facebook and all those investments. It already happened. I just did it 3 years before the masses understood it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I've said lately the same thing about the VC realm and this idea of like, why aren't they recruiting like an athletic recruiter would? Like, why aren't they looking at the people in the markets and how they're moving and the resilient business owners instead of whatever formula or pattern they're matching that says that
the problem is because the VC world is run by well-educated, individuals. And so there's a bias towards Harvard and Wharton in the same way that I made my investments. Not like, I actually had to admit something yesterday that hurt, where I was like, yo, I have unconscious, maybe even conscious bias towards really good students. I don't think Harvard Henry and Yale Yana and Stanford Susan and Stan are going to be great entrepreneurs, and that's not fair. Like in the same way that, you know, VCs are not investing in enough Black women, you know, like now people tend to not cry for third generation wealthy Henry that went to Harvard. But, you know, look, I've met a lot of Henry Harvard, and it's kind of shitty to live a life that no matter what you do, everyone's going to be like, yeah, fuck you. Your dad gave it to you.
Right.
And that's that anxiety. And then of course I always have the cliche person come up to me, like when they hear me say something like that, like, yo, I'll switch with them because I ain't got shit. And I get that, like, you know, but like for me, I'm an underdog guy. I like the shit. I like the
Right.
grind. You know, that's me. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's easier or better. I'm saying we collectively, and then there's a whole nother thing I'm sort of jump into this, which is I'm trying to teach people not to be excited about going after VC. I'm telling people, learn how to make money, not raise money.
Oh my God, I'm right there with you, because how can build a company? Like, do that. I mean, you know, I was having a conversation with a woman earlier, and I'm like, so entrepreneurs get upset when you say to them, like, you're too early. And it's like, oh, what do you mean? I'm passionate about my thing. Well, you don't, this is not a company yet. That you need to learn more lessons about what it means to actually run this as a model for a while. So I think, like, I'm super hype about, like, look, run a company, make money. Money gets more money. All right. And that's how that works. But like, so, but with that, in terms of ads and the ad game, you talk about this a lot. Have you figured out in a formula for like how much goes in to potentially how much you can get out in terms of, like, let's say your product or service is really great, looks great, you know, has really great elements. Have you figured out any types of things around that? I mean, just generally, doesn't.
Meaning, if I spend $1,000 on Instagram, what do I get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
100%. It's called CAC, customer acquisition cost. And then you got to figure out the LTV, the lifetime value. So I got you, Shelly, to sign up for Wine Text. You know, my dad's thing that I've been pushing like crazy, sign up if you like wine. And that cost me $49 when I look at my math, because I went after 49 people for $1 each, and you signed up. So that execution, that picture, that ad cost me $49 because only one of the 49 people at $1 a pop came in. Then I got to look at that group on if they bought 4 times, and then the profit of those, it was $49, and that took 3 months. Now I know my payback period is 3 months. Got it? So yes, there's a lot of math to ads. If you're doing sales, if you're doing brand, which is what I spend most of my time on, I just don't want to sell it to anybody, anything. I just want you to know who I am, share my ideas, you know, build that game. Then that you don't have a formula for. You're just looking at, like, what's the consumption. That's more of a feel thing, because you don't want to go just on impressions, because somebody might think you suck, but you don't know. You got to read the comments, you got to look, but that's a little bit of a different kind of measurement on brand. You got to go with intuition, qual. You could look at impressions and think of that as a barometer, but usually the quality impression is not very obvious. And that's how I think about that.
I like it, because I think sometimes, you know, one of the things that we're passionate about at Black Girl Ventures is micro granting. And so the way our competition works is, in my mind, you can run ads. If I can get you $2,000, you can run ads. If I can get you a couple $100, you can run ads. And it is like, you know, it's free and clear. Take the capital, find a way to get you some more attention, get you some more customers, that kind of thing. What kind of advice would you give someone who's doing this by themselves, or like a solopreneur, or someone with a very, very small team that's trying to create the maximum amount of value? Do you have certain ways that you lay out your time, that you like map out things to make them work?
I think it's self-awareness and happiness. You need to know who you are. Like, if you're not good at math, you may not be the person to run the ads. If you also need to know what you love. Like, if you know you love talking to people, well, then create Zooms all day and throw 20 people in it and just jam. So I think you have to be self-aware and look for happiness, because happiness leads to energy. You know, back to your earlier question, gratitude. I'm happy. That's why I'm nice to people. You know, like, who do you think's not nice to people? Unhappy people. You know, and so I'm happy, and I think it's because I try to put myself in a position to be happy. And I think that's what people need to look for, which is, you know, what do you need to do to be happy? And so I think it's very important for people to know who they are instead of who they wish they were. Got it? Like, a lot of people are like, I'm a CEO. Are you? Just because it's fresh and popping now? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a COO. Maybe you're a number 2. Maybe you're a 3. and you would have made so much more money and been so much happier. Listen, number 3 to Mark Zuckerberg, number 3, to Sarah Blakely, number 3 to, me, that's good.
Right.
And
Right.
so I think we need to stop putting entrepreneurship on a pedestal, because it's not for everyone.
It's not. And I tell people all the time, you're not the hashtag boss. I don't care for that. Because until you're responsible for someone's livelihood, then you have no idea what it feels like to be in this boss position where somebody got to eat because of you, somebody's children getting fed because of you. That is not something we are here like, yeah, hashtag boss. No.
Listen, every hashtag is concerning. We live in a world now where everyone's a keyboard warrior. Everyone's got plenty of things to say about themselves or others. And yet what's happening behind the keyboard oftentimes is missing the mark. And so, listen, I don't mind people pumping themselves up, and boss can be a mindset. Entrepreneurship can be a mindset. So I have empathy for the context, but to your point, what I think the point you're making that is very powerful is like, look, don't front for others, motivate yourself. And I think a lot of the boss talk, a lot of the cash in the ear, a lot of the, like, you made a little come up and you go buy a Gucci belt, it's really to position yourself to others. And I think that's a vulnerability. And I don't want people keeping up with the Joneses, because I think the Joneses in that scenario enable a vulnerability of unhappiness.
Yeah, 100%. Well, one more question.
Please.
What kind of advice would you give a coach right now? I think so. The coach realm is popping too. Like, it's this, like, buy my $14.97 package, my $9.97,
Yeah.
and I've been a little hesitant to go into it, even though I know my brand is bigger and completely different. It just always seems a little bit false sometimes. So I'm trying to figure out, navigate who's the best coach, who's a real coach, who has the right thing to go where. But if there is someone who's really genuine and looking to expand their business, what kind of advice would you give someone in that coaching realm?
I think you have to do your job. I think Billy does a good job. I think a lot of people do a good job. Like, there's a lot of, you got to find the right coach for you. I think you need to go, listen, coaching's tricky, right? I try to do coaching for free with all my stuff, but I can't be super detailed. Mm-hmm. Others can really bring value. It's just an ROI game. It's no different than college. It's no different than anything. There's a lot of great free information. I always say that, but coaches, a lot of coaches coaches that teach people to be coaches is always a very interesting game. I think there's a lot of vulnerability in that. There are plenty of good men and women in it, but I do think tends to be a scary place. I think there's a lot of ways to do it. I think reaching out to people that liked and disliked the coach, like going to Twitter and searching, and then reaching out to 10 people and just getting on a call and really hearing it, I think can really help. Doing your homework.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I know you don't have a whole lot of time, but I'm so glad you could stop by and just kick it with me for a minute.
Let me say a couple more things to bring, but let me give some value.
Yeah.
LinkedIn organic. For a lot of people that are listening, start posting on LinkedIn. The organic reach is real, and it's a real opportunity. So that's number one. And video learn Google how to strip the audio out of your videos so you can have a podcast even though you're doing videos. Those are 2 hacks that I think a lot of people in this audience would really get value out of. Stripping audio, doing videos, lives, different things, but then stripping the audio and making that your podcast. And then you just Google, how do I do a podcast? It will teach you everything. Google is free and it will teach you. And so those 2 things stand out.
So anything that you got working on, things we should go buy, things we should sign up for?
No. Gary Vaynerchuk on all social, check me out. Hopefully I can bring you some value. This is weird, but I would get educated about sports cards. They're going up. If you're into that collectible stuff, that market is hot and has been hot. As for me, just no, I just want everybody to get theirs.
All right. Thank you so much, man.
Take care. Stay well. Bye-bye.